Alrighty. So I think I actually finished setting everything up. I forgot I didn't do that in the beginning. I apologize. So in Canvas now, things are grouped appropriately, so grades will show up like they should based on the syllabus and the weighting of things, right? So 30% comes from the projects. I got your first two graded, the tax calculator and the tax calculator and the win form. I'll come back for Yahtzee and Texas Hold'em probably after the midterm. I think, would you rather the projects or the midterm first? I can do either first. No one cares? Okay. Hopefully not worried about them. I know sometimes people stress about them. So quizzes are all in. Those should be done. So the quiz, I'm not planning on doing more. I think this was plenty. If you did terrible on them and you're worried about it, let me know. I could do like a makeup quiz for someone who wants one. But okay, we'll just have that as an option. So I'll get the midterm in, and then the final project, again, is 40% of your score. We'll talk about that tonight. I did get it posted. My GitHub Classroom link was freaking out, and I couldn't get it to work. So let me see if it works now. I don't know. I don't know if we're just timing out or something with our internet here. I'll try to get it home, and it'll probably work. I don't think it's down for all of them. Look at that. So now you can self-assign to groups in this people section here. I'm not going to click it because it'll have all your names there, and I put this out on YouTube. But if you go to people, there's a section for final project groups, and you just put yourself in a group. And then those groups can submit, each group can submit one thing for the final project assignment. It's linked to the groups. So put yourself in groups. We're down to 43 people, I believe, when I counted. So we'll have 10 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. Essentially. If you'd like more groups of 3, I'm open to that. I can add more groups. If for some reason you don't want 4 people, or lots of people don't want 4 people, let me know. I could add more groups possibly. So is that a question? I'm sorry. No? Okay. So go ahead and do that. Hopefully you know each other well enough by now. We've had a chance to work on some of these things and get to know each other. So looking forward to it. The final project, well, we can talk about that first. And I'll add the GitHub link in a minute. Only one team member needs to accept the assignment and then send me your GitHub usernames. I can add everyone else to that repository. When you're working in teams, you're going to want to coordinate. If you both change the same file and both try and commit, the second person to commit will have some trouble, because it won't be in sync. There's lots of cool things you can do about it. With GitHub, or with Git, you can use branches and other things to manage those sorts of things. I don't really have time to get into all of that for you. The quick and dirty way of making it work is if you just copy your work somewhere else, delete the repository and reclone it, and then you can put whatever you want of your changes back on top. That's the quick, dirty way to do it. It's not great. It's not a proper workflow, but that usually solves people's problems faster than other things. The right way is using some merge tools and figuring out which version you want. You're welcome to get into that too if you want. So I don't think it'll be too much here. Should be okay. And then, so what we're going to do, so there's a group eval file here you can go grab. So 10 of your 40 points come from your teammates saying you did a decent job. And like 5 should honestly be rare. Like, unless one person is doing all of the work in your group and you give that person 5s and they're okay with that, please don't do all the work, but okay, whatever, that would be a 5. Like, average is really okay. Like, don't feel bad about giving someone an average score. Like, this is okay. Most people should get average scores, right? If you suck, then you're getting poor or unsatisfactory. And my general rule for this is you should not be surprised when you score a 1 or a 2 from your teammates, because you will have a pile of missed emails or I didn't respond to them knowing that you suck, because they're like, hey, you didn't turn this in. Hey, you said you do this. What's going on? Where are you? You missed the meeting. It's not going to be a surprise that you get 1s and 2s, right? Don't surprise someone with 1s and 2s if you don't have a pile of emails that they missed, or like text messages that they missed, or something that they missed, right? So if someone's not a good team member, they should know it. If they just completely ghost you, I'm happy to take them out of your team as well. Let's give them a week, maybe, see if something's going on here. I'm okay with getting people removed from groups, right? I don't want you stuck with someone who just never shows up, and that's not fair for them to get the points. But generally, right, you get 10 points for being an average teammate. If you do good or exceptional, that's fantastic. You're a great teammate. We love you. Your team will love you too. But I'm okay with average scores. So it looks really weird when all 4 people turn in 5s for everyone in their team, because it's really hard for everyone to be exceptional doing a group project, right? It's possible. So, and then what you want to do, you're also going to rate yourself. So you'll put yourself down, you'll put your teammates down, and then across these different categories, give them scores. Again, like if you've got a 3-ish average, I'm happy. You'll get the full points here. So it's not for penalizing. This honestly is just a way to be better and to get some feedback from your team on what was good and what wasn't so good, right? So don't think of this as, hey, someone's getting penalized. Really, if they should be getting penalized, they should just get kicked off your team, right? This is just a way to give some feedback here around the quality of their work. They're giving you decent stuff. They can actually solve problems. They're not like, oh, I ran into an error and I gave up. Right? Like they've got some initiative. They're trying to solve some problems here. Whether or not they've actually met at the team meetings or talked to the team, did those sorts of things, took some initiative. This one's okay. If not everyone is great at it, that's all right. Right? Not everyone will have the initiative to be like, hey, here's the idea. Here's what we need to do next. That's okay. And if all 4 people do, it gets to be a little awkward anyway. Right, so it's okay if someone kind of takes the lead there. Communication and time management. So overall, it's just the total of those scores, okay, for each person. So what I'd like you to do is each person will fill one of these out, and you just commit it to the GitHub repository. Right, and they're not surprises here, so you're going to put it in the team repository that everyone has access to, and that everyone will know you committed it. Right. If you've got some concerns you want to talk to me separately, I'm happy to talk separately. But again, none of this stuff should be surprises. This is sort of the goal here. This is not meant as a penalty. This is, hey, this is what you were good at. This is what you might be able to improve. And you guys have some years to improve. When you get to your senior design project, it's a year-long 2-semester project. I guess 2 semesters is not exactly a year, but a 2-semester project, right? That you'll be working in a team doing some big deliverable, which is actually really cool. And it's a cool thing to put on your portfolio and to talk about when you go look for jobs. So this is a chance to develop some of those group skills in a lower stakes environment, right? We're just having some fun building a game. That's sort of the idea here. So 10 points out of the 40 come from that. 10 points come from having multiple substantial commits over the month-long project. What I don't want is one commit at the end showing, hey, here's the work, we're done. Right? We've got the GitHub tool. We can make commits. Now, most people should have individual commits. Occasionally I've had someone say, hey, we just, we pair up or we triple up and all work on one laptop. Great, just tell me that. But generally, I'm looking for each person to have some sort of contribution to the GitHub history here as we go. And substantial is like more than one line. It doesn't need to be like hundreds of lines of code every time, but you've changed more than one thing, essentially, right, over this. This is to encourage you to work early, because everyone needs that encouragement. And if I don't put points on things, people don't do them. Well, I'll just be honest, right? And I work the same way. Right? I will wait until the very last minute if I have a deadline. Which is awful when people ask me for like letters of recommendation, because like, hey, I don't need it till like 3 weeks from now, and then I forget about it because I don't have to do it for 3 weeks, right? So points for starting early, essentially a point a day. That's sort of the goal, a point per commit. So at least 10 should be pretty easy for this level of work, right? It's nothing huge for these projects, but they're not small, so that should be easy enough to break up in a couple chunks here. 10 points for the game running on Xbox with the controller. Dealing with controller input is different than dealing with mouse and keyboard input. We'll talk about that tonight. I will actually take a field trip over to the ELB. I made sure the Xbox does work. Ian helped me with that. Might have been user error. It has to be on a specific Wi-Fi network, and I think I was on the guest one instead, so my bad. And then 10 more points for the game actually having some functionality. It's built with classes. It uses the Win2D library we're going to talk about. You have multiple XAML pages. We've got a page for directions. We have a page for credits. You have like the menu page, and you have the game. So there's like 4 pages essentially we're going to write here. They all kind of navigate back and forth. Everyone should have credits. Be proud of your work, right? It doesn't have to be amazing, but put your name on it. Right? You own this one. A page to tell someone how to play the game. So weirdly, like, people don't think of this very often. They're like, oh yeah, of course we know how to play the game, but I don't know what buttons to press. I'm kind of dumb, like most users. So tell me how to play. And then actually doing things in a nice way, having classes and using our libraries and those sorts of things here. So that's the 40 points. It's relatively easy, and 95% of teams get 40 out of 40. And I'm super happy with that. Occasionally stuff doesn't get all the way done. And that happens. That's okay. But the goal is everyone gets 40 out of 40 on this, and it's somewhat of a fun experience, at least. I mean, fun's a bit of a stretch. It is school after all, but it's something we can work on and put together and have a little bit of fun with. So what we're doing then, sorry, I jumped right ahead here. You are going to come up with some sort of Atari-style game, 2D game, pitch it to me, and I'll approve it. So please don't start in on something without running it by me first. I almost never say no, but I think one person wanted to do a board game, like a memory match game. I'm like, no, that one I said no to. But essentially, pick some basic 2D Atari game. We're going to build Pong in class for the demo. So you can't do Pong because I'm showing you Pong. Other than that, things are great. We'll look at Brick Breaker, Galactica, or what's the other name for it? You were just saying it, I'm sorry. Space Invaders, yeah. Space Invaders, something like that. Just a little 2D game, yeah.
Was the memory match game bad because it was simple?
Yeah. Yeah, it's it just put a bunch of cards up and all you did was click on them. Yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot there. Needs to be a little bit more interactive. It has objects and things. So now doing physics is really obnoxious, and we're going to just cheat and not do physics sort of things because, in my opinion, the right way to do that is to use someone else's engine and not do it myself, because I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. When I talked with Dr. Maxim about this, who runs the game design program, he said, don't use Unity or Unreal because that's what they do in the game design program. In those classes, they learn how to use the cool engines. So we're not, and that's okay, right? We're just going to do it. So there's a cool library. We're going to use this Win2D library that does DirectX stuff, and X being 2D for our case here. You can do 3D stuff with DirectX in C#. I would not recommend doing it by hand. Again, that's me, and that's I'm bad at UI sort of things. So I looked at the demos for doing stuff in 3D and said this looks awful. Super interesting if you're into that sort of stuff, but for our purposes, nice 2D grid, draw some shapes on it. We'll use some images. It goes pretty well. Okay. So that's what we're going to look at. So we'll be using the Universal Windows platform because that runs on PC and Xbox. We do have a HoloLens in the lab that can run UWP stuff. It's a little weird building stuff for HoloLens, and they got their whole other demo. It's the version 1 of it, not the version 2, but it's still fun to play with if you just want to take it out of the box and play with it. Getting it set up takes a little bit, but that works. So later tonight, we'll run over to the ELB, probably on break. We'll just take everything with us and we'll finish up class over there. There's a whole process for how we deploy stuff on Xbox I want to show you. So you can actually start testing on Xbox. Because it's UWP, you can run it on your laptop. And you can even plug in an Xbox controller on your laptop if you want. We've got 3 in the lab, so there is 1 spare technically, but you have to plug in with a USB cord. I have a cord. It's my cord, so I didn't want to leave it in the lab because it's like a $5 cord now. It's cheap, but I'll see. I can probably leave a cord in the lab for you folks to use. And then if you want access to the lab, you need to do the lab safety training. Because we're the engineering college, all of our labs are engineering labs, which means you have to learn how to safely handle chemicals and store them and eye wash stations, and it's a computer lab. Okay, so you got to do the training. Send me the PDF certificate that you get when you complete it, and then I can turn that in when I apply for access for you, and then your M card can get access to the game lab. You badge yourself in, and it's good. Please don't break anything or steal anything, or Dr. Maxim won't let my students into the lab anymore. He trusts his students, and he's like, if you trust him, give him access. So we'll go from there. So other than that, I can let you in when I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's about it. But again, most of the time we don't need the Xboxes because you can do all the development on your laptop. But when we do our demos, the last Thursday we'll probably head over to the game lab and make sure we only have the right number of people in the room based on the fire code safety standards to present. We might have to take turns sitting out in the hallway or something. We'll see. It's in the evening and no one usually checks. So we'll see how that goes. So the idea is when we present then, we'll probably meet in there. It's easier. Last time I tried to bring the Xbox here, it broke. So I will probably not try that again. And we'll just leave it there and it should work okay. Yeah, but looking forward to it. So that's the plan. So the rest of the semester then, we just get to work on that. It'll be fun. Again, sorry I missed the database stuff. It's fun and interesting if you have a chance to play with it. I would recommend you play with it. Okay, we didn't, and that's okay. It's not actually one of the specific outcomes in the class that we have to go and measure anyway. This was just a fun bonus thing because databases are amazing. So we're going to talk about XAML. Yeah, sorry.
We should put ourselves in groups by the end of today or sometime soon.
Yeah, so by next week, if you're not in a group, I make another group called I didn't put myself in a group, I'm probably not participating anymore. And they all get thrown in there. Just so I know who's not, like, I won't stick them in random teams because that doesn't seem fair to you to be like, hey, here's someone who doesn't pay any attention. They're now on your team because then I'll just have to fire them later. That sort of thing. Yeah, so this week, figure out who's in your group. If you already know, go ahead and drop yourself in, go to people. You can put yourself in groups. It usually goes pretty well. Cool. All right, so we're going to start with, so we did a little bit of XAML already. I want to show you some of the UWP stuff, and then when we go to break, we'll head over to the game lab, we'll work on the deploy process, and we can go from there, okay? All right, awesome. So let me fire up Visual Studio, and I can actually show you my terrible demo. This is not super proud of it. Just, I'll be honest here. It's just a demo, that's all it is. So this is when I finished last year's demo for Pong here. Credits. This is Amazing Pong by me, of course, my credits page. And then I have demo mode and play game mode. So in demo mode, it steers itself essentially, and the collisions are not perfect here. And we threw in an image for fun here of a soccer ball for reasons. And I started adding in bricks. I was going to turn it into Brick Breaker. Never finished that. This was just some like idea generating stuff, how we could do these sorts of things here. And I've got like debug info down here, and yeah, it's not the prettiest, and it just kind of goes back and forth. This will just stay here. I think I had it ready to go, like, so I could just stick it on the Xbox and have it on when they were going to do like a lab demo, because this would be super impressive for people to see walking by, right? All right, you're not laughing at me. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. All right, but in the actual play game mode, now my like left and right buttons move the paddle left and right. And then I also have an up and down arrow to speed up and slow down the ball. And I can actually pause the ball because I didn't implement you can't go lower than 0. And you can actually negative speed then. You go forward speed and negative speed, because why not? The collisions get funny when you're in negative speed though. It just stops. So, that's okay. All right, well that was essentially the end version of it. Right, so I'm just setting some expectations here, okay? Is that or not? If it looks that good for your final project, I'm okay with that. Most groups look way prettier because you folks are proud of the stuff you do and want to turn into something that looks a little nicer. I'm okay if it looks like that, right? Not super concerned here. So I've got some of last year's projects I can load up. I think there's still a couple on the Xbox that actually turned out really nice. That the groups are really proud of, that did a good job, so we can look at some of those when we head over to the game lab later too as well. There's not much of a crowd, so we can't fit 50 people in there, but 50 people don't show up anymore. And I think we're down to 43, so I think we're pretty close to what we can pack in that room. Should be fun. And that's over in the ELB, the new really expensive building. Thanks for paying your tuition. We'll be paying off that building for years. All right, so we're going to start a new project. Now we want the Universal Windows Platform. Universal. So with our Universal Windows Platform, right, we'll be using this one. It's based in XAML. So when we did our UI stuff way back when, I'll make sure this goes in the right folder here. I keep putting stuff in the wrong folder. Here's a XAML Pong demo. Excuse me. When you pick this, you have to pick a minimum target version. This is like the least amount of updated spec this will run on. Now, Windows has gotten pretty good at updating people. For our purposes, none of this really, we're not going to use any of the new stuff. We don't use any of the cool new bells and whistles here, right? So like lower is probably fine. It doesn't super matter much. And you can target specific versions if you want, but minimum support. This will determine certain APIs and things you can do in Windows. Again, we don't need any of those, so it doesn't really matter which one's which. Now our starter project, right, is not an animated canvas. So when we look at our first XAML page on our main page, right, it's just a static page, and we can do the same sort of designer things we've done before with this, where we can drop things in, drop in items from our toolbox. Generally now we want to change Wow, that was fun. Reload the designer. Let's try that again. It shouldn't crash. I just updated Visual Studio today because it had updates. I wonder if that was a bad idea. Let's try that. And we'll see if that other option does something. So you get a pick. Nope. Wow. The target here. So generally I'll target for Xbox because we want this to run on Xbox. I'm going to try closing Visual Studio. Let's try that. If it doesn't work, I'm going to be sad. I just had it running. I shouldn't have updated. Let's try it again. Okay. I think it worked. Nope. It didn't start. That's all we get here. Well, that's fun. That might make the demo a little harder. I wonder if my other one will work. Let me just try opening close. Let me see if this one will open. Might just be the design views broke. Yeah, just the design views broke. That's fun. Huh. So the good news is, though, we don't actually really need design view for most things, right? Because we're not building the UI with the toolbox. We're not going to be dragging and dropping elements in here because these are not how we animate things and have them display nicely. So I think we can get around that. Let me just close this back out. Close solution. We'll try it. Hopefully it still runs, right? Does it still run? Okay, I think it runs. Yeah, okay, so it still runs. So we'll figure this out. It's not the end of the world because we're not really going to use design view for anything. You might for like your credits page. But again, because we have access to the XAML, we can just also do the XAML view as well. Don't want to swap. There. Okay, I'll just hide the other one that wasn't working. So with our page here, now we need to add some libraries. We need to go use some other pre-built tools. We don't want to do any of this stuff by hand. So we're going to go to our tools and the NuGet package manager right here. And we're going to manage packages, package manager settings. Or no, manage NuGet packages for solution. So NuGet is a tool we use that goes out and gets other libraries for us, which is fun. So we're going to go to Browse, and we're going to find Win2D. So the win2d.uwp here is an easy-to-use Windows Runtime API for intermediate mode 2D graphics rendering for the Universal Windows platform. Yay, that's what we want. So this is essentially a wrapper for us around DirectX or Direct 2D. So we get to use it in UWP land without having to do anything special. Right? So we say, hey, I want this one, and I want to install it in this project. Right? A solution can have more than one project, and we've only ever really done one project per solution, so it's fine. You can get very specific around how you do this, all sorts of fun things when we build, but we'll just want to say install. And it should just go download it from wherever it downloads here. Yes, I want to change this one. Probably the license should be fine. I'm going to accept it. We can get away with most things in academia. I wouldn't recommend trying to sell this without consulting like actual professionals. All right, so it's installed. That was it. So now it shows up in my list of references here as this package we've added. So now I can go and use it in my code. So the biggest change that we need here is it's actually going to change what's in the XAML here. And I always have to cheat here and go look it up because I don't remember. Let me open up Visual Studio again. Don't remember what I have to change. I have to go look at the last one. Don't need the what's new. So on our XAML page, I want the page, not the code. There we go. We are going to use an animated canvas control. The canvas animated control does a lot of work for us. Right? One of the things we looked at in that recorded video was using threads, doing multi-threading. Multi-threading on your own is doable. It's not the worst thing in the world. We all like to joke about how hard it is, and you can run into really weird issues when you do multi-threading. So it definitely takes some thought to do it. But to make a regular XAML app look like it's a game, you have to have your own thread that goes and says, okay, I need to be like waiting and updating 60 times a second and redraw the screen. And it's been a 60th of a second, redraw the screen. It's been a 60th of a second, redraw the screen. To do that sort of update loop. That's a big pain to do on your own. You can, but it's a big pain to do on your own. So the animated control gives us options. We get a draw function and we get an update function. The update function is to update all of our business logic. So this will run every tick, every 60th of a second. It will run, and we can do something to update our business logic. What has changed in the game here? What state has changed? And then the draw function will run. Draw says, okay, go and draw stuff on the screen. So every time we call draw 60 times a second, it's going to go and update what's on the screen. So the idea here is we update the position of things, and then they go draw themselves. Is sort of the easy way to approach this. Again, there's lots of different ways to put things on a screen and animate them. This is one easy way using that wrapper tool that we have with the Win2D library. You just use the canvas animated control, and then it will do that stuff for you. Right? It will call the update function, it will call the draw function on its own thread that we don't have to manage. Just having to do that by hand, right? We don't want to redo things by hand if we don't have to, right? That's been the entire theme of the class, if you haven't noticed, right? There's a wealth of libraries out there, and we're going to stand on the shoulders of giants and build fun things with those libraries, okay? So we're going to steal that animated control here. So I'm going to go back to my other project here, and in my grid, I'm going to drop in my canvas animated control. I probably need the import as well, right? I have that one, graphics? No, I don't have that one. So I'm going to add this, this one here for the canvas. And that ought to do it for me. So now I need to go and add methods for canvas update and canvas draw. What do I want to have happen here? So if I click on this and I go to view code, let's see. Usually it gives me my little light bulb. Where's my light bulb so I can generate it? Quick actions. Nothing. Okay, that's fine. There's a specific signature for that function that I want to steal. So when you do canvas draw and canvas update, we'll just steal these here. So in our code then, right, the main page code, we're going to add in, hey, on draw, and it gets sent a couple things here. You get sent a sender and you get some arguments, some animated draw event arguments. We don't need to worry about too much about those, but essentially you use this drawing session to draw things. And for update, we don't need to update anything right now. We'll come back and update stuff later. And in here, with the drawing session, right, this is what we're getting out of our library here. We can draw lines, rectangles, text, any sort of thing that we want here. So if we want to like draw an ellipse, we can draw an ellipse. We need to give it a couple things. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do this, which is fun here too. So we give it an X, a Y, a radius X, and a radius Y. And then we tell it, hey, what color do we want, right? So that's probably a pretty easy thing. So this is all pixel based. Remember, 0 zeros in your top left. There is no math land, there's no origin in the center. It's pixel based, so 0, 0 is the top left. So how many pixels in X, Y's, right? And how many pixels down Y direction. So if we just say like 100, 100, 100, 100 here, and maybe 10 and 10, our ellipse now becomes a circle, right? Because all circles are ellipses, but not all ellipses are circles. Okay, yeah, back to geometry. And then we can tell it, hey, what color do we want here? So this uses a brush. Oh my goodness, what do we use for colors? This is not giving me a great type ahead here. Color, brush, dot. Hang on, let me see what I did over here. My apologies. I will just go steal this one. Brush. No? Where's my like color? Let's see. Color. Can I do it that way? Colors dot weight, maybe? Let's try that. Aha, okay, so I think it accepts that. So now when we want to draw something here, it should draw an ellipse, and this will just continually draw and draw and draw and draw and draw over and over and over in this little loop that runs. It won't be super exciting, but it'll be here. And update, there's nothing to update. Oops, oh, we didn't do create resources, that's right, so we don't need that one right now. Later we'll use this to do images. You have to use this special create resources because it runs asynchronously. Because this stuff happens on threads, async stuff matters. We'll get to that later, right? Graphics was the plan for next week. So we'll just punt. So I should get an ellipse. There we go. Little 10 by 10 at 100, 100 pixel ellipse. Super exciting, but it's not animated yet, right? We haven't done anything with it. So if we want to make it move, I can start putting some logic into the update piece here, right? So if I want to reference something that's in update that I also want to reference in draw, it has to be a class level variable, right? So we can add class level variables to this here. So I might have, like, say, a circle, right? Or I might have something that we're going to use to set all these variables. So I might have my int circle x and int circle y, int circle radius x, and int circle radius y, right? And then my constructor should set those values, right? You can technically set them here, but I consider that bad form. Let's set them all here. So we'll set our circle x to 100, our circle y to 100, our circle radius x to, what do you think, maybe 25? We'll just make it a little bit bigger, and the radius y to 25. And now when I go and draw, I'm going to use my variables. So my circle x, my circle y, my circle radius x, and my circle radius y. Okay. Sorry, that gets a little long on the screen there. If you weren't so zoomed in on the text, it'd probably fit a little better, but we can bump it down if we need to. Okay. So then update, now we can start moving the circle. So every update, I could change something here. So maybe we'll say, hey, if my circle x is less than, so x is going to go this way and this way. So when we looked at the main page, I think it crashed again, but when I look at design view, let's see for a second here, it says expect 1920 by 1080 for your pixels, but that's at a 200% scale. So we actually have half of that is what we want to do when we target for Xbox. Again, doing this by hand sucks, I apologize, but baby steps, okay? So half of that, I have somewhere around 1,000 pixels of X and somewhere around, what is it, 600 pixels of Y, somewhere like that, right? And we don't have to be perfect. So we'll say, like, if it's less than 900, we'll take our circle X plus plus, and then if it's not less than 900, we'll take our circle X minus minus. We should be able to move it, right, along the screen. So every time that update gets called, which is about 60 times a second or so, it's not precise necessarily, it will start moving. Now, it's kind of wiggling. I don't know if you can see that. My logic here is dumb. I don't have a direction that I'm traveling. I just have either increase or decrease. So once I decrease, I'm no longer, now this will be true again, and then I increase. And then this is false, and I decrease. So like, I really sort of want a moving direction. Should I be moving left or should I be moving right? Right. So if I have another value here, so maybe I have a Boolean for moving right. We'll set moving right is true. So if my lot is less than 900, we're great here. So maybe what if the circle X equals 900? Maybe then we'll say moving right equals false. Stop moving right because we hit 900. And then what if, else if my circle X is equal to, what do we say, like 100 on the other edge? We'll say moving right equals true. So if you hit 900, stop moving to the right, it's false. If you are coming backwards, right, and you hit 100, you should start moving to the right again, right? This is not super fancy, right? It's a little bit embarrassing how dumb this is, but it's okay. This will work here, right? So now we should be able to bounce left and right if now we go change this. So now if moving right, then we want to take our circle x plus plus. If it's not moving right, take the circle x minus minus, right? This way we check to see, did we hit the bounds, change the direction, otherwise move the direction we're moving, right? So now my circle should go back and forth. Hey, it bounced. Really exciting, very exciting. Now, it might be cool to put some walls up here, right? If we're playing Pong, you have walls on the left and right, okay? So we should draw some things. So maybe I want to have some walls, right? So int, I don't know, left wall x, int left wall y, int left wall width, and an int left wall height. And then again, look at that, right wall, I love it. It knows exactly what I want here. That's crazy. This isn't even like the Copilot. This is just regular IntelliSense, which is awesome. I'm too cheap to pay for Copilot, and I haven't signed up for the free trial or anything like that, because they do want to give it away, but a little bit too much of the magic, kind of spoils it. Anyway, so let's go set some values then. So we'll say for our left wall x, we want to set at 100. Our left wall y, we want to set at 100, right? 100, 100, kind of that corner here. And then how about for the left wall height? Now this we want to be really tall, right? We want to be mostly the height that we have. We had said somewhere around, was it 600 or so? But if we're starting at 100, we've got about 500. Again, this is guesswork right now because we don't have the toolbox to do drag and drop and draw stuff. We could use the toolbox and drag and drop and draw stuff. But if we're using code to draw stuff, it gets to be a little funny when we want to now animate it and do funny things here and look for things. So I think going this approach is probably better right now. I'll say maybe width is 10 or so. So when I draw, I'll take my args.drawing session and I want to draw a rectangle. Given the left wall x, the left wall y, the width, right wall width, and the right wall height. Oh, I'm sorry, left wall width. Goodness gracious. Left wall width and the left wall height. And then a color. Should we do colors.white, a white wall? Now this works really well for me because I have dark mode on. If you don't have dark mode on, your game will look a little different here. It won't be a black background, it'll be a white background. So again, doing like a fixed white color might not work for you if you haven't turned on dark mode. So maybe like blue. Pick blue. Let's do blue, because that'll probably show up everywhere. Let me change this to blue. And now I feel bad having to change it more than once. We could have a variable for this, right? And change it one place, would be nice. Again, lots of things we could do. We're getting there. Okay, baby steps. Now we'll do the right wall x, the right wall y. Let's do this. Can I just copy paste right? Replace. Now I probably should set some values for those. Now we said we wanted to stop somewhere about 900, right, for the x, for the right wall. Right wall. So like 900, same y, same height, same width, essentially. And then we should be able to draw it. So let's see what that looks like for us. Oh, we kind of went through it when we started. Did you see that? Now, we started the top left corner at 100, but we have a width. The width wasn't accounted for where the ball started. And we're also bouncing over here, a little funny. Now, the ball is centered and has a radius. So we also need to account for the radius of the ball in addition to the width of our lines here. As you can see, the math is getting complex already. But this is the center of the ball here, not the top left corner, which is weird because like 0, 0 is up here, but I could draw, I circle at 0, 0, and then I would see like the bottom corner, or this direction for you, right, or the 1/4 of it. So it starts to get a little complex with detecting whether or not things are hitting each other, right? It's a little bit tricky, but we can do it, right? We can do math. It's not too hard here, right? And because these are all variables here, I can take what half of that is really easily, right? Now, I might recommend not doing odd numbers, because half of an odd number is a floating point number, and you don't have floating point pixels, right? You have pixel number 1, pixel number 2, pixel number 3. There is no pixel 2.5. So you can't, with the way we're going to do it, you can't detect a collision at 2.5, right? So again, just for easy purposes, let's just use those numbers here. So if we want to back this up or have it really like align nicely right at 100, I want to start at 90 because I have a width of 10, right? So that way the right edge of it will be at 100, pixel 100. Now the left edge of my wall will be at pixel 900, I'm fine here. But now we need to make sure we check for our bounces. So
Isn't that the radius though?
Yes, including the radius, yeah, plus the radius.
Wouldn't it be 80?
Yeah, so 10 more, right, for the radius. So let's do, we do 100 minus the left wall width minus the circle radius x divided by 2, and just set the width first, because otherwise that arithmetic will be stupid. And that way, if I change these later, it should still be the same arithmetic, I think. Right, so offset by the width, offset by the radius. Now, or do we want the ball to stop before the radius goes over the 100 pixel mark? That's the other option for us. We can do it either way, right? So if we say the ball should stop when the edge of the ball hits pixel 100, we could do that, or we could say when the center of the ball hits pixel 100, we can stop. Either way is up to us. I think it might be easier for us to actually use the edge of the ball rather than trying to move our wall here, to say, hey, let's just leave this here, and then we'll account for the width, the radius of the ball in a minute. So rather than saying, hey, if my circle hits 900 or my circle hits 100, let's do some checking here, right? Let's say, okay, if my circle dot x plus the circle radius x is greater than or equal to my right wall x. So if the center of it plus the radius is at or beyond the pixel where the right wall starts. So it should stop when it's equal, right? We could probably just say equal, right? We probably don't even need greater than here. This gets hard if you're moving more than 1 pixel a second. If you start to speed things up, this gets tricky. We can solve that problem later. So this is essentially, did we hit the right wall, right? I can say my moving right, now it's false, okay? That's that check. We can say, did I hit, so if I didn't hit the right wall, we could check then else if my circle x minus the radius equals the left wall x plus the left wall width, right? This should be the right edge of the left wall. Because it starts at pixel 90, it's a width of 10, so that should put it at 100. So does my center of my ball minus the radius, because that's the x offset, hit that one? If that's the case, then let's set moving right is true. Hey, we've bounced, essentially, right? This is, we're trying to see if we bounce here. Okay, let's try that. So now can we be flexible based on where the wall is? Oh, we probably should start it somewhere, then let's start it, how about at like 200 here? Just so I'm not colliding to start with. Excuse me. Yeah, I can put it back to white, actually. I think white was easier, right? I'll just leave a note here. White might not show on your screen. Get dark mode. White. So it's actually cool that like the UWP respects dark mode and it understands that my operating system is set to dark mode. That's kind of a cool, I feel like that's a cool feature, right? I didn't have to write any code for that. Hey, it bounced! Are you all too young to have watched The Office? I think I already asked this, didn't I?
watched it.
You watched it?
I watched it like way after it came out.
Yeah. That's. I'm an old person.
I watched it as a function. I also watched like the entirety of It's Always Sunny, which I prefer. That came out the same year, 2005.
That was almost 20 years ago. My goodness. But in one episode, they have a VCR. The loading screen of the VCR, the logo bounces around, and they're all excited when it hits the exact corner. And I feel like that right now. Like we're just waiting for it to hit the exact corner and bounce, and we'll be really excited. Because these are the things that excite me nowadays. Because I'm old and boring. But it seems like it's bouncing, right? And then if we move the wall, right? We should be able to move the wall around. So if I want to change my wall and put it like, I don't know, 500, it should respect that, essentially, because we're based off of variables, which I think makes sense. We want to use variables, so as things move, we respond to that, right? Super exciting. Okay, we got that. So I think we're okay bouncing that direction now, right? So we had that at 900, I think we said? Yeah, I think that was probably 900. Cool. And then let's move the y down a little bit here too. Let's put this at like 200 as well. Now we probably want to do the same thing moving up and down. A similar approach, right? So we can, now we don't want walls though, right? Because those are supposed to be computer paddles or paddles that you slide back and forth to play Pong, right? To make this bounce. So we can add in some variables for some rectangles here. Now, hopefully at this point you've seen I have 2 rectangles. And if I have to make 4 variables for every rectangle, we should be writing a class for it. Right? I like what you guys think. That's awesome. Yeah, we don't want to do more work than we need to. Right? So if I have a class for it, it's actually pretty easy to do this. So I can go and add a class here. This is just C# code. Let's go add a new class here for rectangle. And I want a class file here, right? Not another page or anything like that. I want a rectangle. Right, so rectangle then, public rectangle, sure, let's add some attributes. I'll come back to the constructor. I need a int for x, an int for y, and these can probably just do gets and sets, right? Just make these properties, right? Gets and sets, and then int for width, and an int for, look at that, height, I love it. So exciting. Again, I'm an old person. I get excited by silly things. But now we have a rectangle, right? The other cool thing we can do now is this idea of a rectangle drawing itself, right? If you give it the drawing session, it should be able to draw itself, right? You don't have to, and you could draw them yourself here, but that's one of the advantages we get with the class here, is we could add a function here for draw rectangle. So void draw, right, given a drawing session here, so whatever this thing is, it's a canvas drawing session. Canvas drawing session. Session, sure. We can draw ourselves, right? So maybe we'll also then have a color, right? Color. Now, is that the right UI color? Is that the one we had? The colors. Yeah, UI colors. Okay. So we can set a color for these things. Right, so we could pass that in as well. So when we draw, then we'll say session.draw rectangle, and we want to draw given our x, width, height, and color. Look at that. It just knows our variables. So exciting, right? So we can draw. So now I can make these rectangles here. Instead of having all of these things, I can say, hey, I want a rectangle for the left wall equals a new rectangle, and I can give it all those things. I can say, hey, my x is equal to 10, my y is equal to, let me say 90. Oh goodness, why? My syntax is wrong here. X is inaccessible. Shouldn't be. Oh, I missed public here, sorry, public. There we go. Wonder why it was up with that. Public. It's even suggesting that. I'm so excited by tools. Anything to make my life easier. All right, so we'll set the x, the y, the width was, what did we say, 10, and then the height was 500. Oops. Equals, not a minus. And then the color was white, right? Equals colors.white. All right, so now we have a left wall. So when I want to draw here, instead of doing this, then I can just say left wall, oops, dot draw. left wall. Come on. I didn't name the function public, sorry. Public void draw, there we go. Dot draw, given the args.drawing session. Left wall. Oh, sorry. I have to make that a class level variable. Left wall. There we go. Class level variable, so I can get at it here. Now I don't need all these attributes for these, right? Get rid of those. Same thing for the right wall. We'll get rid of that. Now I can have a rectangle right wall. We can have a right wall. Wall equals a new rectangle, given all these attributes, right? So we'll go set, do a little copy paste. Now we want 900, 100, right? Oh, my Y was 100, right? Width of 10, height of 500, color white, fantastic. Then I can draw the right wall. Left wall draw, and then we'll do right wall draw. Right wall. Right wall. Right wall, dot draw. Drawing session. Cool. So we can draw. Uh-oh. Returned false but didn't log an error. Oh, doesn't, I did it again. No, I have right wall. I mean, it doesn't exist in this context. Did my errors go away? What happened? Error list. I have 3 errors. Oh, aha. My update logic here. I didn't scroll down far enough. So now it's not the right wall x, it's the right wall dot x, right? And left wall dot x, and left wall dot width. Look at that, the power of naming conventions. I can check to see if I hit here. And I should have my walls. Did I moved something here? That's in the wrong spot. I think I must have swapped my width. But it still bounces. That's cool. What did we do wrong here? Oh yeah, x was 100. That's what it was here. Width was 10. Okay, I just had it in the wrong order. Right, we probably want to do the same thing with our circle, right? Our ball could be its own class. Doesn't necessarily have to be here, but having to track all this stuff separately is a little bit tricky. And now what we can do is I can check to see if things collide. That's sort of a nice way to do this. So I don't have to have this logic everywhere in here. If I wanted to add other walls around, if I wanted to add the paddles, I'm gonna have to do more rectangles, I'll have to do more checking based on specific rectangles, right? It'd be nice to see if things collide a little bit differently, right? To sort of, here's a generic way to see if 2 things collide, right? Here's one object, does it collide with another object, right? Because that's essentially what we're checking, is did it collide here? And doing our own collisions is really annoying. Right? Because essentially we're saying, if I'm moving to the right, does my right edge hit their left edge? Right? If I'm moving to the left, does my left edge hit their right edge? And sort of that's what we're doing here essentially, right? We're saying, hey, did my right edge hit their left edge? Did my left edge hit their right edge? Doing that. And then when we do up and down, right? If I'm moving up, did my top edge hit their bottom edge? Right? And if I'm moving down, did my bottom edge hit their top edge? So we've got some work to do to find all those different collisions here between all the objects. And if I want to turn this like into a brick breaker, where I've got like 50 rectangles up at the top here, I don't want to have to hard code 50 different checks, right? That sounds terrible. Yeah, you all look like that sounds terrible. That's good. Right? We don't have to do that. So what I'm going to do is have a list of objects and say, hey, did it hit this object? 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 Right? We can do that sort of thing without too much trouble. You know, there's some stuff that goes into it here, but if we can sort of generically say, hey, did my left edge hit their right edge? Did my top edge hit their bottom edge? These the 4 directions as we're going, right? We can turn that into a function call. So I can say, okay, did these 2 things hit each other? Right, and that's what we're going to work on. So why don't we take a break? We got almost 7 o'clock. We can head over to the ELB. We'll work on doing some collisions and getting stuff running on Xbox, and then we'll call it a night. Does that sound good? All right, so why don't we take, take a couple minutes to wander down there, do a quick bathroom break. We'll pick it up over in the game lab. So I'll head over there first to unlock it, and then I'll take my break. So if someone wants to follow me, I can't prop the door open. I'm not supposed to do that, but someone else can let you in when you knock. If you don't recognize the person, don't let them in. Right? Okay? Don't let randos in the game lab. Right? Just our class, okay? All right, cool. Let me pause this.